when I chose to get back to Brazil, one of the reasons was to play again for my homehood team. The coldest weather I got there was in 2006. In January, we had like minus 27 degrees. It was too much for me. It wasn't frustration about not playing, but obviously to see our team not winning that game, I think this is the biggest frustration.
This is something slightly different because this is a long interview now. I'm warning you that it's quite a long interview with Fernandinho, former City midfielder, Brazilian born, played in Ukraine for Shahktar Donetsk, and then of course Manchester City, and winning plenty of honours with the Blues. I had a chance to speak to him. I spent an hour and a half with him actually. So this isn't the whole meeting, but it's certainly a big chunk of it. He talks about growing up in Brazil, about his time as a youngster and how Brazilian kids learn football in a different way perhaps than they do over here in the UK. He then talks about going over to Ukraine. He's mastered the language. He learnt Russian, which of course they speak on the eastern side of Ukraine, and then came to Manchester City and replaced, and for a little while played alongside Yaya Toure. He compares the three managers: Mancini, who he just missed out on, but Pellegrini and Pep, but knew enough about Mancini to have a view on that as well. Talks about missing out on the Champions League final in 2021 when Pep decided to leave him on the bench, and about his love for Manchester and Manchester City and what he's doing now and what the future might hold for him. So there's loads in this interview. I hope you enjoy it. I certainly enjoy doing it for you. And well, here it is. Here's Fernandinho. Enjoy and share. You started your career in Brazil. You've gone back to Brazil. It must be a dream for you to have gone back to your boyhood club. Is that why you went back?
Yeah, definitely. When I chose to get back to Brazil, one of the reasons was to play again for my homehood team, and then it's been alright. 2 years and a half we played there, and the first 2 seasons was okay. The first season was okay, and then the last one wasn't great. But you know, to play for my first fans in football, it was really nice to see how the love they showed me during this time, and I really appreciate that time there.
Now, I, as a boy, idolised the 1970 Brazil team, and therefore I've always had a great love for Brazilian football.
Yeah.
You grew up in Brazil, you learnt the game in Brazil, and you've seen what it's like in England as well. Is it different in Brazil? Why are there such a high percentage of young footballers that come from Brazil who are so skillful?
Well, I came from a generation which is not that modern like this. I born in 1985, and then when you grow up, so it was normal to play football in the streets without referees, or 2v2, 3v3, max 4v4, and then you made the rules. The players made the rules, so there was like a lot of respect between the players, because when there was foul, we stopped the game. But in the meantime, you have to deal with all the problems you have. For example, the trees, the cars coming, people walking in the streets, and sometimes you have to stop the game for a bit and then carry on again. And we start to learn a few things which becomes important in the future, And the skill from not just Brazil but South American players, I would say could be for that, for the cultural way to play. Some cities in Brazil you can play on the beach, in the sand, and then I'm not from the beach, I'm from the countryside, but however, it was normal that time to play without shoes as well. So I think this is why Brazil could produce so many players over the years, because, and the other side is the poverty we face in that time, and then football becomes one way to escape from the poverty, and for the players to make money and help their families, which have happened in my case as well. And when you put those things online, maybe this is the reasons we produce a lot of players, because when you think I don't have perspective to study, or because the education is not so great like in Europe, so but there is a chance to become a footballer and then to make a better life. So I focus 100% on that, and I go full guys on that. Many players happen the same things for them in Brazil, and then that's, I understand, one of the reasons for Brazil produce a lot of players and quality players, good players over the years, over the 40 years, 50 years, is that. And basically after, when you grow up and become smarter, we start to understand a little bit the game a bit better, and the skill show up, and then you can make a great job as well.
Do you think, and this might seem a strange question, that you benefited then, and from what you're saying, other players like you benefited from not being overcoached? Because we in this country, in Europe, from a very young age, players go into an academy or a much more structured way, and so therefore it feels to me a little bit sometimes that this natural skill that you have and your country has is coached out of you to play safer. Is that a factor?
Yeah, well, I have a friend there in Brazil, which we discuss a lot about it, because he comes from the futsal, so 5-a-side pitch, and then he started to play so early when he was 5. Started to train 2-3 times a week, and then to play weekends. And I was the opposite. I started to play when I was 13. So before that, I used to play just during the weekend and the school, but not the obligation to train every 2-3 days a week. So, and this kind of freedom sometimes is important, especially for the young players, because if you start to give them a lot of info, could be complicated for them to understand and process the amount of information you give to them. I have a son which is 14 now, so he's playing and then training for a while, but obviously the new generation, they are capable to absorb the info, but my time wasn't like that. And then so there are a lot of things, because there is a statistic which when you start to play football so early, you finish your career earlier. So if you get the percentage of players which started to play and training to have like a routine, train and play below 10 years old, they don't reach 35, 36 years old. So it's a lot of time, but could be more, If you look at my case, I'm 40 now, I could still play because I started a little bit late. Sometimes not possible, but if you start to think about that, maybe you can, help the players to reach more time play football life. So, and I think it's something you have to think about that, because at the end of the day, when you're a child, you just want to enjoy the game, to give the ball and play free, and then to mix with the other players, to combine with the other players, and to do your own game. Obviously, after when you are 15, 17, 18, you have to understand a little bit more about the game, the tactics, and you have to increase physically. But the main thing is like the passion for the game, and you get this when you play, when you have freedom to play. So this is my understanding about that.
So how did you end up being a defensive midfielder when Brazil is so renowned for Rivellino and Jairzinho and Ronaldinho and all these beautifully creative players.
I played in so many different positions. So remember when I signed for City, I used to play like a number 8 at Shahktar. So getting a little bit more the attack, getting forward. And then when I joined City, Yaya was here, so and then the agreement was we're gonna play together. When one go, the other stays, and vice versa. And obviously, with his quality, I was humble enough to admit he was much better than me, and I say I'm gonna stay here, and I try to help you out, and then you can help the team over there. And after that, Pep comes and then change everything, because in his system, a player like to play in this position, hold midfield position, not just defend, but attacks and control the game and make the team the right balance. Try to be the lines be more compact as possible, and change everything for me. So I become from a defensive midfielder, which I never lost my skills, to someone who helps the team as well with the ball and in the attacking ways.
Just before I ask you a lot of questions, no doubt, about City, you were in Ukraine for a while at Shahktar Donetsk, and we know now what's happened over there.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you go? How and why did you go to Ukraine? And what do you make now of what's happened since you left?
Well, I joined Shakhtar 2005. So when I started to play there in South America, in Brazil, and then they come over and we finished the league in second, and then they made the offer and bought 2 or 3 players for my team. So we went there. It was a nice project, because the intention was to become one of the knowing team in Europe, in the biggest scenarios, playing Champions League quarterfinals, try to reach the semifinals. Wasn't possible, but for example, the former UEFA Cup, and then the intention was to win that, which we did in 2009, and obviously, to win the main domestic trophy as possible. And obviously, as young players coming from Brazil, you always were looking for big scenarios, to play the highest level possible. And after that, I come to City. It was a really nice experience I had there in Shakhtar.
What about the cultural differences? That must have been a big shock to go from Brazil. I know you said you weren't brought up on the beach, you were on the farm, but nevertheless to go into Ukraine, so close to the Russian border. I know you speak Russian, and the tensions already existed there. Was that something difficult for you to adjust to, being in such a different culture?
Well, in terms of culture, obviously it was really different. So coming, especially when I joined there, was in the summer. It was really nice, really warm. So, but soon becomes really cold. So during the winter, and but I was so focused to succeed and to perform well.
And I suppose you're protected from some of the aspects of the culture by the fact that you're a footballer and that you're in.
Yeah, it was different, because obviously, the football in Europe, they're more physically and more tactically. Especially a young guy coming from Brazil, sometimes you struggle to understand that, and then the training sessions becomes a challenge for you, because you want to play, but you don't reach the same level as the other ones. But for me, it was okay. It was like 6 months adapting, and then after that I started to play and then never stopped it. Obviously, I had the help from many people, from the coach, from the assistants, from my former teammates. We had other Brazilians as well, which they were a bit more time there in Shakhtar. And my intention was to play as good as I can there, to succeed, to win trophies, and to get to another team. But obviously it was a different weather. The coldest weather I got there was in 2006. In January, we had like minus 27 degrees. It was too much for me. My first winter and then straight minus 27. And we had like three training sessions in that period there before we flew away for the preseason, and it was really hard for me. So I never thought I gonna spend a time in the weather like this, but I survived.
I've been to Kharkiv 3 times to watch City play against Shakhtar.
Yeah.
I guess you weren't playing in Kharkiv at the time, but you played in Kharkiv.
Yeah.
And so to see what's happened since then, the destruction of that city, which I thought was a lovely city, has shocked me to the core. You watching from afar must look at what's happened, and having lived there, been part of knowing people there, must have shocked you as well.
Yeah, shocked. I never went back to Donetsk, to be honest. I've been in Kharkiv to play there a few times. And obviously, I still in contact with my former teammates, and someone from the club as well. It's really hard, to see how they've been through during this time, and it's been 10 years now since the war started. And obviously, some of them move away from Ukraine, some of them stays in Kiev and then have to go away. But they are trying to survive, and then hopefully the war can end as soon as possible, because I think people deserve to live in normal way as possible. And then, for me, most of them, they becomes like family members, because the way they treat me, the way they receive me, the way they welcome me when I got there was really special, and the respect remains, and hopefully this war can end as soon as possible.
My father-in-law was Ukrainian, so when I went over there, and even to Kiev, and I was surprised that the first language of a lot of people in those areas was Russian, which obviously you've mastered the language, and yet it was in Ukraine. So even though you played for a Ukrainian team in Ukraine, you learnt Russian. And that illustrates a little bit the complexity of that area, doesn't it?
Exactly, because it's like 100 miles from the border, so, and most of the people there, they speak Russian, and the other part of Ukraine, obviously they speak Ukrainian, the west side and in Kiev, in the capital, but there is a mix of everything, politicians and sportive rivalry, and it's a different culture, so. But I'm so glad I lived that period over there, because it makes me to understand a little bit about the life in general, which when I get back to Brazil, I realize how fortunate we are, like a nation. When I come here to UK, I realize how fortunate you guys are, and I was here as well. And then I just thanks God for that.
So you come to England, you're already Russian speaking, Portuguese speaking of course, and you have to learn the language. Did you know much English? Because I remember famously at the time you were watching Coronation Street and learning English from Coronation Street, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I did some classes there in Ukraine when I was there, so obviously it wasn't the same, but that helped me to understand a little bit when I got here. And obviously I used to watch movies on the TV with subtitles to try to understand and to get as much as possible, and also to listen to the radio as well while I was driving to the training ground. And the most important was to talk to the people at the club, which makes me understand a little bit better. So over the first 3 years, this was my process of learning here in Manchester.
I was saying that you were listening to the radio, that you learnt some of your English from me then, because I was on the radio then.
Yeah, every morning. And obviously, because the accent is different, so, and then after that, after 3-4 years, becomes easier, and then I could communicate it to anyone in any scenario.
So Manchester City come looking at you. Did you say yes straight away? What convinced you to come to City?
To be fair, well, we started to talk in 2012 when I was my last year at City. We played in Champions League group stage against Chelsea, UV, and Nordirland, I think, from Denmark. And then we played really well. So, and City comes and showed the interest to sign me, and then we start to talk, and at the end was everything. Obviously, Shakhtar didn't want me to leave. I had two meetings with the Shakhtar's president, Rinat Akhmetov, and then I asked him, please sell me because it's a project for my career, is not just. And then at the end he understood and then allowed me to come.
Did you know much about Manchester City before? I mean, I suppose in the immediate years before you would know that they won the FA Cup and went on to win the league in 2012. But when you were back in Brazil and City weren't as good as they've become, would you have been very aware of them? I suppose United would have been the team you'd associated with Manchester.
Yeah, at that time, United was associated with Manchester, obviously because they won more titles. However, but in that time, City started to become known there in Brazil, worldwide. Obviously, living here in Europe was a little bit easier to watch them and then to know about them. With the Brazilians which played here, they didn't have so much success in terms of titles. But following the news about Brazilians which comes to UK and then play for City, Arsenal, Chelsea, however, most of the teams in Premier League. And as soon as they come and show the interest, obviously I start to follow, and then to follow every game and everything about City. I start to learn about the club, and I think this is normal process, when you have a chance to become a player for a team, and then you start to know and to follow everything about that team.
So the previous Brazilians like Joe and Giovanni and other players who come over here were almost an inspiration to you that it could work over here for you as well and be connected to the club in a certain way.
To be fair, I never talked to anyone about to ask them how was the club, and obviously my intention was to play for them because leaving Shakhtar to come for the Premier League for a team like City, which started a new project and a long vision project. In my intention was like, I don't need to ask anyone. This is the project which.
So it was the project more than anything else.
More
really.
than anything else, and I believe I would fix in that project. So that's why I fought with Shakhtar to come to City. There is a history which I left money behind, and then was my intention 100% to join City. So I think I made the right decision.
Well, we all think so, because you played magnificent football for City. You were following Yaya Toure. You've been ahead of Rodri, but in that key position in central midfield. And I mean, you must have enjoyed your time here. I mean, who were the players that you got on with? Who were your friends? Who were the ones you respected? Who were the ones when you looked around the dressing room you thought, can't believe I'm playing with this guy?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, for example, when you are professional, you don't think about that. You don't see that way like fans or supporters. Yeah, because you are so focused, and obviously, you appreciate to be, beside those players and play alongside them, and obviously, but in the daily basis, those special players, they become your friends and normal people to you, which most of them, they are really humble, which surprised me at the time. They are really humble. They have a lot of similarities with you because they just love to play football. They do their job, they do their work, and then go home. to spend the time with the family. And obviously when they come to the pitch and they becomes like superstars and top players, they perform the best way possible. But obviously playing alongside the Yaya was a pleasure for me. David Silva, Kun Agüero, who else? Vincent Kompany, Gael Clichy when I came here, Julian Lescott, Micah Richards, Joey Hart. All of them, they welcome me really well. So I was the only Brazilian in that team. My first season here, they made everything try to me to be part of the group, to learn English. Obviously, with Zaba and the Spanish guys, Argentinian guys, was a little bit easier because I speak Spanish. But for example, Samir Nasri, so we had a great relationship outside the pitch as well. So it was a group of players which welcomed me really well, and then I felt really part of this group, fit really well the team, and we were succeed that season.
Given that you're a humble man from Brazil who grew up in farmland or whatever and came over and made a career for yourself, and you said when you were playing alongside players they were just your colleagues and you didn't think like fans do. What does it feel like then when you walk round the Etihad Stadium now and you see a statue of David Silva, a statue of Sergio Aguero, a statue of Vincent Kompany, and you think, well, they're just like me.
Nah. They really deserved it. They really deserve it because they been part of the team which changed everything about City. So during that time, because from 2010, from 2002 now, well, the first 2 years was I think was the most challenging years, because they had to confirm after the investment, after they changed everything at the club, and they were the first players which the new direction brought for the team, and they had the kind of pressure on them, to perform well, to win titles, and they did really well. So I think this is more than deserved to have a statue, and I'm so glad for them because, well, like I said, they are really humble. We're still in contact. Sometimes we talk to each other, and well, this is life. The stars shines to deserve it.
I'm old enough to remember Joe Mercer, who won the league along with Malcolm Allison in '68. And in the modern era, it was Roberto Mancini, Manuel Pellegrini, now Pep Guardiola. You've had experience of 3 of those managers.
True.
2, of course, because you came just after Mancini, didn't you? But you've certainly seen the aftermath, if you like, of what he'd created and played with a lot of his players. So do you have a comparison between them?
Well, I think each one had your own, personality and qualities. Obviously, players used to talk about the difference between them on the daily basis. But I think what they have in common is like the mentality to play well and to win. I think this is one of the keys which Man City players becomes strongly mentally. They had like a strong mentality to win titles and to play well and to understand the new era the club was living, and then every game you have to win, every game you cannot make mistakes, you have to perform well. So I think when you combine those 3 managers, becomes the group of players which understand that, because they made us understand how important it is not just to win titles, but to play well, to perform well, and to be consistent as much as we can. So Mancini, he won 1 title, and then the other season, he finished second. With Pellegrini in his first season, won the title, and the following years won a couple of league cups, I think, and reach the Champions League 8 finals, and then I remember if you reach the quarterfinals, well, semi-finals. I think his last season, but it was a process. They start to build back there, and then it was a process building to reach the most successful time at City. As always, I say there's a process, and then when you respect that, people understand that, and follow the guidance, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Do you think, obviously, the main time you were there, I suppose, Manuel Pellegrini was very influential for you. Do you think he's undervalued because Mancini was the one who won it in 2012 with Aguero? We all remember that so clearly. And Pep's done so much since he's come in. And although Manuel won the Premier League and had a lot of success, it feels to me a little bit that he's almost the forgotten of the trio. Do you think that?
Well, I don't know. I think he did his job really well. So when he got here, because when you lose a title in a season, it's so hard to win a title the following season, and he did it because City finished in second in the previous season, and then a lot of changes. New manager, new players, and then he could cope with that. He won the title, and 2 titles in the first season. It's not easy, but you never know what people would say. We as players, we really appreciate what he has done, not just in terms of results, but the way he conducted everything in the club, the way he treated everybody, and he was a really special guy.
How important is a coach, as a manager, is to you as a player? This is a very general question. This could apply when you were Shahktar, now you're back in Brazil. Is it about you focusing on your job, or can the manager, in other words, be the significant difference?
I think it can be, because, for example, to be a manager is like educate someone, because sometimes some players they don't have this kind of treatment at home, for example. When you grow up, don't get any attention from their parents, for example. Some players they have to leave home at the age of 13, 14, and then start to live in this crazy world which we call football. And then when you have a manager which guide you, educate you, helps you out, not just in football terms but in life terms as well, it's so important, because sometimes you see so many players which they former managers, the way they behave, the way they conduct many situations, and I think this is really important. I was really lucky to have those managers which helped me out to understand not just about football but about life in general, because we are so focused in football, and you don't have time to spend with your family or friends, or to do what normal people do, and then they start to realize a lot of things about general life. So
you clearly have a lot of respect then for managers. So you also played in City's first ever European, well, you were part of the squad that got City the first ever European Cup final, Champions League final, which, what a great achievement. It was sad that it happened during COVID. I mean, I was one of the lucky 14,000 that was in Porto.
Yeah.
But the big subject that everybody's talked about since then was why you weren't selected as the starting holding midfielder. What happened there? Were you? What did you think about it? And what conversation did you have?
As you said, it was a big achievement for us. So this is football. Sometimes you can get what you want. Sometimes you don't. So and for me, is the important is what you're gonna do after that. How you're gonna react. So I think was a sad day for us. So we lost a cup final. So because the expectation was so high. So think we prepared really well, and then we had the expectation to play well and to win that game, but at the end we couldn't win. But obviously, the time went through, and then the club achieved that target and that goal in the further, and it was a special moment for everyone.
Was it frustrating for you that you didn't play in that game?
Well, when you look back, I didn't play most of the games that season, so I played the semi-final here, the second leg, and then, but before I played last game, so it wasn't frustration about not playing, but obviously to see our team not winning that game, I think this is the biggest frustration.
I've got to say, on behalf of City fans, who I think I'm speaking on behalf of, they all wanted you to play in that game. Do you think you could have made a difference? Could City have won it if you'd have played?
I don't know. What's gone is gone. Never come back anymore, so I don't know.
What's your happiest memory then from your time at City, whether it be on the field or off the field?
Happiest moment? Well, the titles I have won here, yeah. Every title, because when I come here, most of the people start to laugh at me because I say, no, you have to win, that title. You are crazy, Okay, don't worry, let's work. And then, at the end, we did it. And every title I have won was like a special feeling, really special feeling.
What, have you got any funny moments that you can think of that happened in your time in the dressing room, or that fans wouldn't know about?
We had money, but I cannot share.
I mean, there's always funny characters in every club. I mean, in past generations, I could name you the characters who were the ones who played the practical jokes.
Yeah.
Was there anything like that or were you all too professional to do that?
No, we had some. So I think when you're in the dressing room, there are some characters, and then you especially to keep the good environment during the daily basis, during the training sessions and for the games as well. And it's really special when you have someone like this. Well, during my time here, we had few of them.
You don't want to name anybody though. I mean, I know that Chappie the kit man was notorious for some of the practical things that he did, which I know about, but I don't know whether you want to tell anybody about anything that happened.
No, Chappie was someone who was really special, because when I came, well, as I said before, I was the only Brazilian in the squad in my first season, so, and then they, not just him, but him, Ali, and Brandon, which are the kid guys. Brandon was so young, so, and they tried to make me to feel at home, speak English slowly to understand everything, and showing me, made some gests, and it was really nice, because every time he talked to me, he struggled a little bit to say my name, so Fernandinho, and he said Fernandinho. Well, but he was a really special guy. Yeah.
Does everybody call you Fernandinho, or do you get called Ferner, or what do you prefer to be called?
Well, for the Brazilians, it's easier, obviously, to say Fernandinho is quick. Obviously, here in UK, you have the habit to cut people's name. That's normal. And obviously, at the club, they called me Dinho, and then was fine. It's easier for them. It's easy, What is easier for you? If it help you out, no problem. I can deal with that.
I remember speaking to Micah Richards when he was playing for City, and right at the beginning of his career, people didn't know whether to call him Mika or Micah.
Yeah.
And Lee Croft, who was one of his friends at the time, I said to him, "What's his name? Is it Mika or is it Micah?" And he said, I don't know, I always call him Mika. So even and it's Micah, of course, but even they didn't know. So I guess it's the same thing with you. People call you whatever they want to call you, don't they?
Yeah, well, some people call me Fer, some people call me Nando, some people call me Dinho. Well, I used to be called in Ukraine by Ferna, so however, and it's okay. I can deal with that.
So you were telling me before we started chatting on record that you now think you're going to play one more year maybe in Brazil.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. We'll see. We'll decide.
So your contract currently at the club is finished?
It's finished, so I'm free in the market now, and then heading back to Brazil next week. Kids will start the school again, and then I will decide if I still playing or not. But we'll
not
see.
been approached by City with the injury crisis that they've had, have you not? Because you still look very fit.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different.
On current City matters, what you mean? Looking from afar, I don't know if you watch the City games.
Yeah. When I can, I watch every game. Yeah.
Well, this sudden decline has caught everybody by surprise. Can you explain what's happened?
It's hard. I explain by outside, so it's difficult. So I'm like quite the same. Like maybe you have more information than me because you are following the every game in local, but it's not easy when you have a lot of injuries during the season. We had the same situation in the past, so but hopefully those players can recover as soon as possible, and then the team can get back on the track and then play the same level as before, because it's what we want.
You've already mentioned Yaya as being almost a hero of yours, the way, and you played alongside him and let him go forward a lot more. But you, Yaya Toure and Rodri have been the three magnificent players in that position. Who's the best?
It's hard, huh? Could we play the three together? Yeah, but obviously Rodri is living, before the injury, he was living a wonderful moment, He was playing really well for the team and for his national team as well. So he was the one which carried the team on his back, would say like that, because the numbers show that with him the team performed one way and without him the other way. So obviously he becomes really important for the team, and he understands the game really well. And the Yaya, when he was here, it was something special, since he came from Barcelona, winning many titles and performing really well. And I think each one had your own moment, I never chose like who is the better one or however, because when you choose like this, you can be unfair with someone. So because I had his time, I had my time. Rodri is having his time right now. So, and hopefully he can recover as soon as possible, get well soon to get back to the pitch and to help the team again, and to keep performing and to keep winning. To keep doing what he's doing. Well, that's my thought.
As we're speaking now, City have just signed a young 19-year-old Brazilian. Is it pronounced Rice or Reese?
Hayes.
Hayes.
It's easier.
How good is he?
Well, he's still young, 19. Didn't play much there, during the season. But he's good. He's fast. He's got quality. And obviously, it's a big move for him coming straight from Brazil to the Premier League, and hopefully he can understand and can process everything as much as possible, as soon as possible, to start to play, and hopefully he can be one of the players which can make the difference into the team.
I know you said you might play for one more year. Have you ever any thoughts about coming back to this country, being part of the City setup? So many former players have got involved, either as coaches or ambassadors. Is that on your radar? Are you thinking about that?
I think everything is possible, The perspective when you finish your career or end your career, everything is possible. Obviously, you have to start to talk to the people to see what is their intention. Obviously, see if they have a big project, You see so many former players involved in this project as well, which is really nice. And also, it's not an easy decision you have to make because it involves everything, families, kids, and everything. But in the right time, you have the answers.
And you do know you're loved here, don't you, by the City fans?
Oh yeah, well, I love the, always when I come here, I feel really welcome by everyone. So I've been in the club last week. It was really nice moment, to see everyone before Ipswich Town game. So it's nice when you walk down the street. Some fans recognize you, and really is appreciate time. And I would say Manchester will be always my home, and anytime I come here, I'll be really welcome, and this is making me really proud about it.